George Mallory tried to climb Mount Everest 3 times, in 1921, 1922 and 1924. He wrote to his wife, Ruth, in 1921. I cannot tell you how it possesses me. He wrote to his friend, Geoffrey. At what point am I going to stop? Eventually, Mallory's yearning for mountains would prove stronger than his love for his wife and family. In 1924, Mallory was cast into death at Mount Everest. I recently traveled to Norway for 6 weeks and saw all these amazing views that I'm in no way used to. I live in southern Finland and it's pretty much all flat. Plus there are no fjords, waterfalls, so you can expect I was a bit overthrown by everything I saw in Norway. Now don't get me wrong, I felt a sense of being alive stronger than in a long time. But what goes up must come down. Strong feelings have their costs. It's fair to say that I got addicted to seeing and experiencing beautiful views, wild landscapes, anything that was novel and stimulating. At first I was amazed by scenery that now looks tame in retrospect. I remember driving in the southern Norway and being just amazed by literally almost everything I saw. But then you start seeing cooler and cooler stuff and you kind of need to always do one better than last time to get the same natural high, the same rush of amazement, that sweet bewilderment you feel in your heart. I remember one day climbing to Hoven, which is a mountain in Gimse ja Lofoten. The views from Hoven are pretty great. They would easily be southern Finland's best views. But when I got to the top and looked at the surroundings, they didn't awake any emotion within me. I shrugged my shoulders and thought, is that it? Okay, time to go down. If this would have been the first mountain I climbed during the trip, I would have been astonished by the view. But at this point I was so used to getting the natural high that I would have needed a view that was a lot more magnificent to awaken that raw emotion within me that we all seek while climbing a mountain. So let's get to the science here. Female rats housed for 3 months in a diverse, novel and stimulating environment show a proliferation of dopamine-rich synapses in the brain's reward pathway, compared to rats housed in standard laboratory cages. The brain changes that occur in response to a stimulating and novel environment are similar to those seen with high dopamine addictive drugs. So in English, a continued exposure to novel surroundings works almost the same way as drugs. You always need a little bit bigger dose of your drug to get the same effect, because your brain gets used to the stimuli and adapts itself to it. Our brains have an internal pain-pleasure balance that you might have heard of. You could think of it as a scale. Whenever we do a pleasurable thing or an exciting thing, the scale tips to the pleasure side. You feel good afterwards. Now, it would all be good if that was all it did. We could easily regulate ourselves to experience pleasure pretty much always. Here's the catch. Our brain is always trying to restore homeostasis. Homeostasis is kind of an internal balance point of the brain. Our brain wants to restore homeostasis, it wants to get back to the middle ground where there is as much pain as there is pleasure. So people who use drugs continuously try to repeatedly push into the pleasure side, but as a result their brain starts pressing more and more onto the pain side as a counterforce. It's trying to balance itself back to an even level. It creates new pain and stronger pain as a kind of fight-back mechanism. That's why getting rid of drugs is painful. You feel pain in parts of your body you haven't felt before, and the pain is also stronger than before. You also feel less pleasure about things. Basically, your dopamine system is messed up. It needs time to restore itself back to base level. Anyways, this was basically what happened with me. I got addicted to experiencing novel and exciting surroundings, and there's no problem as long as you continue using the drug, adding up the dose. But when you suddenly stop, it's harder to feel joy about basic, everyday, mundane things anymore. Now, I'm in no way comparing myself to like heroin or opioid users. This is obviously not as serious as that. All of these drugs just affect our brain in a similar way. 2 weeks ago I got back from the trip. I moved back to the city and now I feel like I feel nothing. When I walk outside, what I see isn't beautiful to me. It awakes no emotion in me. I feel like John Ruskin felt back in the 1800s. In a totally flat landscape, I feel a kind of sickness and pain. What I now feel is the urge to get back to the mountains, climb higher than before and see a view better than ever. I want that feeling back, that rush of adrenaline and dopamine, that sense of being alive. My dopamine receptors still need time to reset. I would give them 2 weeks, and I should be better. But this is something I started thinking about on a larger scale. I had some of the best moments of my life out there in the nature, but are the moments worth it if nothing feels as good anymore afterwards? I would love to live a lifestyle of constantly exploring new places and mountains, but if it means that I will be miserable a long time afterwards, is that a price I'm willing to pay? Or maybe I just have a PVB and I'm taking this too seriously. But the science might indicate that I'm not taking this too seriously. A study of skydivers compared to a control group, which were rowers, found that repeat skydivers were more likely to experience anhedonia, a lack of joy, in the rest of their lives. This is crazy to me. What? The authors wrote that skydiving has similarities with addictive behaviors and that frequent exposure to quote-unquote natural high experiences is related to anhedonia. No, I don't want to experience a lack of joy for the rest of my life. Thank God I'm not skydiving, at least. Remember George Mallory? The guy from Beginning who had a wife and a family who died on Mount Everest? I'm sure that he was as hooked as you can be on mountain climbing. It kind of gets me thinking. I don't want to get so hooked on this that I would risk my life for it, like George did. Now, George is not the only one. Hundreds of people die every year in the mountains, and hundreds of people are willing to risk their lives to get that natural high, to see that amazing view and overcome their own limits while playing with death. Now, I don't want any dance book opera, so maybe the answer is everything in moderation, like it is with alcohol or gambling or whatever you're doing that could be addictive and harmful in excess. Last winter I stayed 2 months in northern Finland, and while I had a lot of new and great nature experiences there, it was way more balanced than in Norway. I wasn't out there every day seeking for great views. I lived more casually, and I still had a great time. When I got home I had no PVB at all. So I'm trying to keep this in mind the next time I go somewhere as beautiful as Norway, that this is something that could potentially be highly addictive, and who knows where that addiction will get you.